Welcome to Super Debate Battle Royale Deathmatch, the podcast that is dedicated to debating the hottest issues in esports and video games. Today we'll look at 6 topics about Overwatch, League of Legends, and more, and ask the tough questions. So stay tuned for Super Debate Battle Royale Deathmatch. Let's now introduce ourselves. So my name is Aaron Alford. Like I said, I'm an esports writer and an intercollegiate debate coach. I have coached and competed in a variety of debate events over the course of over a decade. I like debaters to tell me specifically why they won the debate based off of the net benefits of their respective sides. So if an argument is not addressed, I think for the sake of the game it's true, which might be a useful thing for Olivia and Austin to take into account and maybe abuse.
Okay, and my name is Olivia Richmond. I'm an editor and writer in the esports industry who has no professional experience debating whatsoever. And what I'm looking for as a judge is just examples to back up points that you're making. I'm looking for statements to be backed up by examples, stories, facts, statistics, anything. Basically, I won't just go off of you said it, so it means that it's true, which is sort of the opposite of Aaron, but we'll see how that goes.
And I don't. My name is Austin, and I'm a freelance writer.
Who doesn't care about facts?
I don't care about facts. Frankly, I only care about feelings and how your argument makes me feel. No, my judging criteria will actually vary wildly based on my moods, the media I've absorbed recently, and how the winds dance between the 4 corners of the earth, so keep that in mind. My main esports are Smash, Melee, and Ultimate, and League of Legends, but I also like to cover the FGC as a whole and CSGO. My interests include writing, catching up on games that were popular 4 years ago, and button mashing in fighting games. As a debater, I have no experience, and my strengths are that I'm loud and over-caffeinated.
He was slurping real loud before this began.
It's
I can
true.
confirm.
It's true. And that was coffee and tea. I was getting 2 ounces of caffeine into my body at once.
So we're going to jump right into the first round. I will be judging the first round. Olivia will be affirmative and Austin will be negative. And the topic is Fortnite is the worst esport. So we're going to move it over to Olivia right now. Olivia, the storm is coming in.
So I can just begin now?
Yeah, jump right in.
Okay, so today I'm going to be discussing why Fortnite is definitely the worst major esports title and why it's basically only popular because grandparents have to force their children to stop flossing in Walmart. And one of the biggest and most prevalent issues with Fortnite as an esport is also one of the first issues that basically went on to define the entirety of the esport, which is basically that even their first event, the Summer Skirmish, failed miserably due to glitches and extreme lag. The meta at the time also was quite boring, with people just hiding inside their builds, so no one really even wanted to watch. And not to mention the amount of RNG involved, which carries on to this day. With Fortnite being an entirely online format, even their biggest tournaments are held online and have a bunch of bugs and server issues that have continued to plague it to this day. Sometimes players don't even load in, other times they experience a server problem that gets them eliminated, and when there's a lot of money on the line, it's not just frustrating, but sort of agonizing to watch. Like if a player like Tfue can just get wiped out right away thanks to a random bug, what even defines a good player? What even makes this worth watching? The completely online format also opens Fortnite up to a lot of cheaters. There was even a well-known cheater who blatantly had his friends help him qualify for the Fortnite World Cup. Epic only banned him for a few weeks, and he was able to come back, qualify, and then play for millions of dollars, despite being a blatant cheater that got booed the entire time at the tournament. And there's definitely more instances like that happening in every tournament, since it's impossible to even control, since it's online and people are just playing from their homes. And speaking of Epic's pathetic 2-week ban for cheating in a major tournament, Epic doesn't care at all about competitive Fortnite. They have made huge changes to the game, including adding OP weapons right before tournaments, and they have changed landing zones and other major parts of the map right before events, rendering all practice leading up to that point useless. And they have even held tournaments that required certain specs and settings that almost no pro agreed with. They have also been on record saying that they added the Brute as a way to make Fortnite an even playing ground, allowing crappy players to know how it feels to get a kill, and they were proud of that. And they didn't care when pros and other competitive players protested, and the Brute even stayed in competitive modes and tournaments. So the game is full of RNG, cheaters, lag, and unfair elements that allows you to win even if you have no skill. The end.
That really makes Fortnite sound terrible. Let's hear what Austin has to say. Take it away, Austin.
Ladies and gentlemen, and anybody along the binary or outside of the binary.
Shouts out to the they them folks.
Exactly. Let me just say this. I readily acknowledge Fortnite is not the best esport. That much is clear. For all the reasons that Olivia outlined that are, frankly, just factually true. But what I will say is Fortnite is not the worst esport. Fortnite is bad. Don't get me wrong. And I do think we consider Fortnite worse than it is because we see so many children flossing at Walmart. And we think, wow, not only is this esport bad, not only is this a game I don't necessarily want to deal with, but it has to assert itself to me in popular culture all the time. However, there's a hidden game. There's a secret game, or well, might as well be secret, that has actually done more damage in a way and is even worse. And ladies and gentlemen, I think that game is Halo 4. So during the MLG era, what you could argue is sort of like, if not the birth, maybe the adolescence of esports, Halo was one of the major titles, especially in North America, and it was some of the biggest prize pools you could find, some of the most views, just some of the most successful esports. And then it got scuttled because Bungie and Microsoft were in an agreement where Bungie had to finish up 2 more Halo games for Microsoft. And they wanted to wrap those games up quick and get the hell out so they could make a games as a service thing in form of Destiny and just keep doing that thing. So they essentially made Halo Reach and Halo 4. Now, Halo Reach was bad. It had a lot of competitive flaws, like basically a built-in sort of Zonya's mechanic in a shooter, and all these built-in abilities that made the fighting a lot more awkward. But Halo 4 was even worse. So Halo Reach already did this damage to this community and made it dwindle and made it shrink. And then Halo 4 essentially destroyed Halo esports for like a while until now it's sort of starting to regenerate like years later. So you have this once proud, actually incredibly well-designed, incredibly unique, incredibly beautiful esport just reduced after Halo 4. And what makes it even worse is that there was a game earlier, Reach, that was competitively kind of a mistake. But instead of sort of fixing these issues and making it better, it just got even worse. It basically became Call of Duty-ized. It became a clone of that kind of game to the point where it even had like a clunky, awkward sprint that Halo never needed and that overall slowed down the nice fast pace of the game that it used to have. And to make matters even worse, just aesthetically, it was really gross looking. All the colors kind of blended together. You couldn't really tell what was going on. And there's this really important item, right, or weapon, I should say, the battle rifle. And the battle rifle legitimately sounds like if a cicada did a line of crack and then just like was constantly flying around your ear. Like that's the sound of the battle rifle every time it shoots. And
what's a line of crack? What's that mean?
Oh, wait, you're right. line of cocaine. Anyways, but
this is not a drug debate. He doesn't have to know about drugs here. In fact, I commend him for not knowing about drugs.
Smoked a pipe of crack.
Not knowing either.
Anyways,
He's injecting weed and you can't stop him.
it's as if the cicada injected weed into its bloodstream. Anyways, the cicada's done this, and it's flying around your ear, and it is constant throughout the entire match of Halo 4. So, my argument is that Fortnite is bad, yes, but we kind of know how Fortnite's bad. It's a known quantity. We understand that it's kind of unfair. We understand that competitively it's not that good, but we also understand that it's kind of like a content and money machine, which is weirdly a part of esports. So I would argue that Halo 4 is actually worse because it kind of destroyed what was a historically great esport.
All right. Now we go back to Olivia for her second speech.
Okay, so I sort of used all of my main points at the beginning, so I'm just going to respond to what Austin had to say, if that's allowed. I'm not sure. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that's the purpose of the speech.
Okay, cool. So I'm glad I have some notes here, and the first thing I wrote is I sort of wrote what you said, and the first is Fortnite bad, flossing bad, and I do agree with that part. Okay, so then the next part is you said that Halo was sort of like this more underground esport. It's sort of the beginning of esports. Well, what's horrible about Fortnite is it doesn't have that excuse of being like the beginning of something. Like, esports has already established itself at least further than it was when Halo started out, and I feel like there's no excuse. There's more funding, there's more fans, there's more support, so it shouldn't be this bad. There shouldn't be this many game-breaking bugs. There shouldn't be this much blatant, ignorance of what it takes to make it competitive. Like, we should be past that by now. And you also said that Halo 4 sort of destroyed the esport, but just because Fortnite continues to live on as this horrendous game doesn't mean that it is better. In fact, I think that makes it worse, because we are still being forced to watch it, we are still being forced to hear about it, we are still being forced to write about it, and it just continues to grow despite its incompetence as an esport. And it's offensive.
And it's offensive.
Look, I can't disagree with it being offensive. In a lot of ways, it is. But here's something, too, that people don't give Fortnite credit on. And that's that it's kind of a fun game. A lot of people enjoy it. It's very addictive. The aesthetics of it are actually pretty well built. There's actually a good feel to it, you know? And you can argue whether or not it really deserves what it gets or anything like that. But Halo 4 didn't even have that. There wasn't even a clean aesthetic. And it's rough to me because, like you're saying with the early esports angle, the thing that's frustrating about the Halo 4 part of the franchise was that they'd had it nailed down. They had Halo 3. Halo 3 was fine. In fact, Halo 3 was great. It had great online multiplayer. It had a great movement system. It had great new guns. They had a formula already worked out. And it was pretty much stick with the movement, keep the general gunplay all about the same, because ever since Halo 1, it was good, right? Ever since Halo 1, it was really solid. But then you get into Halo 3, you get into Halo 4, and for some reason, they just start to change this. They start to add in these unnecessary mechanics like sprint, and so it feels just as foolish. It feels pretty much like, what you're saying with Fortnite, except you have an even clearer outline. You have a franchise outline that you're just not following for some reason, that instead you're trying to innovate on, and you're trying to make like Call of Duty of all the games to mimic. You're mimicking Call of Duty. And I think that's just unforgivable to me. In my eyes, unforgivable.
All right. So now we will have Olivia's final word.
Okay.
So let's hear it.
So, just because a game looks good, or a game is fun, or it is trendy, or has a lot of fans playing it, it doesn't mean it's a good esport. The debate here is, what is the worst esport? Why is it Fortnite? It's not, is Fortnite fun to look at, or are the skins fun? It's Fortnite is bad as an esport. It's just not ready. It's not competitive. There's just way too much RNG, and it's not even just that. It's the fact that Epic refuses to even differentiate between casual and competitive players, and in fact wants them to be even while holding a competition for a $30 million prize pool. It doesn't really make any sense. If you want to have an esport, you have to get rid of these weapons or these last minute changes on the esports side of the game, and they have yet to do that, and in fact are proud that they have not. So I do not see it as a good esport. It has so much support, so many fans, and still has so many bugs and glitches, and just it's just not competitive, and that's just the way it is. So that's my argument, and that's all I got.
All right, awesome. Well, I think that you both chose incredibly bad games, or I should say bad esports to discuss. So this is a difficult decision for me, but in the end, I think I have to give it to Olivia. She's going to be rewarded 100 Nook miles for that, because I think that she had a lot of specifics about why Fortnite's specifically a bad esport, and I think that her defensive arguments about how, well, since Halo was a little bit earlier, we have a little bit lower of expectations. Fortnite's a 2020 game and it's still completely broken. Really swayed me on that, but really good arguments from both of you.
All right. I can still not even afford to get to another island, but I still got those Nook miles anyway.
But if you keep banking them, you'll get there. All right, so now I will pass off. The next judge will be Olivia, who just got her Nook miles. So,
woo! So our second debate is going to be to pitch a fighting game based on the Overwatch roster. And Austin will be going first, and I am excited to see where this goes.
Hold on 1 minute. Let me get rid of the dog. Okay, there we go. Hold on. The dog must be expunged.
Expunged?
Get out of here, beast.
Well, we're not cutting this.
You can keep all that in. That's all part of the argument. Okay, so I want to pitch a game that captures Overwatch's sense of character and color. And because of that, I want a fighting game and a part of the fighting game genre that really allows for a lot of flexibility in fighting styles and also allows for a lot of flexibility in visual styles. So for me, I'm looking to make Overwatch a anime fighter. And I think that's where Overwatch would fit best, because essentially you get to create characters that can all play really, really differently, all within one engine. And you can also have characters like that. You can have a Dragon Ball Fighter Z sort of style, where you have different assists coming in, so you can feature a lot of different characters. You can have sort of a meter that would build up to similar supers that would essentially just be like your ultimate ability, so you can bring all of those in too. I'm thinking that if you keep it sort of like a 2D or like maybe a bit of cell shaded like depth to it, then you can also actually fit in a lot of the visual detail and still have it look pretty good. And you also have like that way you can bring in a lot of characters that would be really big body that would not be very good in some other fighters, because big bodies just usually are too easy to hit and things like that. But I think in an anime fighter, you can make a great versatility of characters, and you could even have stuff like Diva falling out of her mech and then being in like the pistol form for a while, and all characters' ultimates and such included. So yeah, I think Overwatch would make an awesome anime fighter. Okay,
I mean, I'm an Overwatch fan, and I have to agree that I enjoy these visuals. So good luck.
I guess my question is, what makes a fighting game amazing? For some people, it's good visuals or, the sense of color and character. But for me, during my childhood, fighting games were about something different. It was about playing the most janked out, unplayable bullshit that could essentially break at any moment. And that's why I think that a WWE style simulation game with Overwatch characters would be the best fighting game archetype for the Overwatch cast. WWE style simulation is all about fun, Anime characters, anime fighters tend to take themselves very seriously. They're all about combos and pulling off the most technical precision. But where in that is the personality, the heart? Where is the Bastion jumping off the top of the ropes to just smash Genji? You know what I mean? Where is the Mei freezing someone and then dancing on their frozen body? It's just not there. I think that the anime fighters take themselves too seriously. See, it's just funnier when the game is broken, too. And as someone who's played WWE games, those games never work. No matter how hard they try, which I don't think they do, but no matter how hard they try, WWE 2K always is completely and utterly trash. And that's what I want to see from an Overwatch fighting roster game. I think there's been a lot of spin-offs about Overwatch. Serious spin-offs aren't nearly as interesting as the crazy zany world where Overwatch characters hang up their weapons and engage in a ridiculous live performance art a la wrestling. It's finally time for Zarya to shine, and as an added bonus, we can finally see who actually wins in a wrestling contest, Zarya or the Bear.
I feel like I can't argue that, but luckily I don't have to. Austin, you're up.
One, I reject the notion that fighting games are about jank. Only partially so. I think every childhood genre of gaming in some way is about jank, because you run into a lot of jank, especially in early video games. But that doesn't encompass everything. I also reject the idea that the WWE platform would even be the best for jank, because I think that you would have a lot of trouble actually making those diverse models into WWE, as somebody who has tried to make Don Cheadle into a wrestler in WWE 2K16. And I'll tell you, I had trouble just making Don Cheadle not look like Obama. And they don't even look alike. So I don't trust that engine to capture the unique facets visually of each character. I'd also say that anime fighters don't necessarily take themselves seriously, or they at least don't have to. Some kind of do, like Guilty Gear's a little bit more on the serious end, Dragon Ball FighterZ's a little more on the serious end, but then you also have stuff like Skullgirls, which is like pretty silly and can be pretty goofy, and same thing with Grand Blue that has like a lot of more jokey, kind of funny characters. So I think you can still get in like all your sort of funny, colorful Overwatch humor in there. And I think also this is a way where you can bring in some of the competitive scene and you can bring in some of the casuals too. Don't get me wrong, there are going to be some casuals burned when they hop into that anime fighter that is inevitably not going to have a tutorial, or like barely a tutorial. And they're going to try and do a bunch of stuff and they're going to get smashed. And it's not going to be fun for them. But ultimately, a fighting game, it's like a third about the casual play, and then it's like 2/3 about this sort of sharpening your teeth, getting into it, beating up on your friend, and proving that you are really just in all facets of life stronger and better through a colorful video game that ultimately does not mean anything. So yeah, I think that all things considered, the true spirit of the fighting game, it lies more in the anime fighter than in the WWE fighter, if it can be called a fighting game. I also think the visuals get better captured by an anime fighter as well. So, while I respect the WWE fighter, while I respect the jank, I truly respect the jank, I don't think that it is what breeds the fighting game that Overwatch needs.
First of all, no one should respect the WWE fighter. That's your first mistake. The whole point of my argument is that we need to put Overwatch characters into a game that we have zero respect for so that we can break it. Because there's two types of childhood experiences with fighting games. There's going over to your friend's house, and as someone who didn't own any fighting games growing up, losing miserably. That 2/3 that you talk about, sharpening your teeth, destroying your friend. Friendship ending, life-altering losses, right? Just horrible, bad experiences all around. That's what you have with Austin's side. On my side, you have going over to your friend's house and just losing your shit at how fucking stupid WWE simulations really are. Did you know that the WWE style 2018 simulation, WWE 2K 2018, didn't even work for like 5 months after release? Literally, it would crash anytime you tried to play it. That is the kind of game that I can get into when it comes to fighting games. Now, is this argument at all persuasive? No. Overwatch should clearly be an anime fighter. Like, that's a way better genre for it. But I ask you, is it important to make a good game? Or is it important to make a funny game? That's the question we should...
Now, there's always a place in anything, not just gaming, but life, for good humor and something that's designed to be intentionally bad good, or good bad. But in this case, I don't think you need Overwatch to do it. WWE, that was an extra W, WWE already has the bases covered. It's already hilarious. You can already go to it for your monster factories, for your humorous content. You can already build, you can build Diva. You can try to build different people in that like game engine, and it will actually be funnier than if you had the actual game engine designed to do it. Because it's always going to be more fun to try and stretch the WWE engine over something it doesn't belong, like a weird, just goopy skin. And so ultimately, I think that Aaron's point of this janky sort of nonsense, most fun thing, we even achieve that better with the anime fighter, because it reaches for something that WWE can already cover. WWE's already got that. That game has jank for days, for months, for years. And there will be an endless supply of it. It will never die. It will go on until society itself collapses, and honestly, maybe after that point too. So I think even in the realm of good, silly fun, the anime fighter wins, because ultimately WWE cannot be beat. Other wrestling groups have tried.
That is a compelling argument. So, for me, Overwatch is about the lore. That's even why they're making a second one right now, Overwatch 2. People can argue that that's pointless. Maybe there'll be another debate. But there's no fighting game genre with more backstory than anime fighters. That's why people love them. They love seeing all the anime characters clash, knowing what their backstories are and what their rivalries are. And for me, fighting games are also about being better than your friends. I think an anime fighter would embody the spirit of Overwatch more, so I have to give one fatality to Austin. I will give Aaron a half-full super meter.
Can I use my fatality to kill your Animal Crossing character and steal the Nook Miles?
I only have 100 Nook Miles. I can't even escape anywhere.
That's true. Where are you going to go?
Maybe that's the next debate topic. What fighting game genre best fits Animal Crossing?
Okay, that is a very interesting prospect.
You know Tom Nook's going to be OP as hell.
I mean, there's already Animal Crossing's characters in Super Smash, which is not working, so I would love to see them in something else.
Very true. I guess we've ruled out one platform fighter. So now I'm up next, right?
Yes.
I'm the judge.
On
Okay.
a serious topic.
Oh, baby. Even better for me to be the judge for. All right. Welcome to Judge Austin's court, where the jury is made up entirely of kangaroos.
And dogs.
And dogs. Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Dogs are the foreman of the jury, though.
Yeah. You could consider them like the really obnoxious bailiffs, or maybe even like the stenographers that you're just like...
Yeah.
Anyways, so this topic is, should LCS cancel Spring Split? So as everybody knows, we are currently basically confined to our houses and kind of watching the economy poop itself a little bit as the world is held in the clutches of this strange, continually spreading virus.
Called capitalism. Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about the other thing. Gotcha.
Yeah. So the question is, should LCS cancel Spring Split because of capitalism? No. Because of the coronavirus. And the affirmative, yes, we should cancel, is with Olivia. The negative, no, we should not cancel, is with Aaron. And frankly, I'm just excited to see my coworkers and colleagues battle it out tooth and nail.
Perfect.
Let's do it.
Okay. So even though fans no doubt love being able to watch their favorite teams compete while they're trapped in isolation, the competitive integrity of the split as a whole has been compromised, and I don't think they should have continued under the current circumstances. With all of these unexpected occurrences and schedule changes, many teams have not had the adequate practice. Sorry, I had to restart that sentence. With all of these unexpected occurrences and schedule changes, many teams have not had the adequate practice they need to be at the top of their game. You could argue that they're all in the same boat, but even then, who wants to watch equally distracted and exhausted teams fumble around on stage, not playing at the best of their abilities? A lot of the teams are practicing from their own apartments or rooms, meaning they don't have that face-to-face coaching they normally would. And when it comes to the matches themselves, the teams are not inspired. Speaking to many of the players myself, including Pobelter and Power of Evil, they don't feel as competitive while they're sitting in a room by themselves instead of being on stage with their team and the crowds. They also are concerned about connection issues that might happen from it being completely online. Doublelift even said at the start of the Spring Split that he didn't feel motivated because of the new format that has the Spring Split not really counting for much at all. So there's no sense of urgency or reward, and other players are feeling similarly. And now that it's been disrupted and reformatted and postponed, it feels even more pointless. In fact, the LCS Players Association admitted that about 2/3 of the pros in the league voted to not have the Spring Split at all, and most stated their reasonings as safety and it doesn't matter. They literally said it doesn't matter. So one could argue that it's still good practice, but why not just have them scrim or play privately? Why air it to the world to see when they're not prepared and not inspired or happy to be doing it? They already don't feel like it's a competitive setting, so there is no real benefit to having it streamed at all, except the audience's selfish wants for something to entertain them during isolation. That's what I gotta say about that.
I like it. Go straight after the audience. Go right for the throat.
Wow. Yeah.
All right.
So don't you dare try to say that it's good for us, because I've already stopped you in your tracks.
So I actually agree in a lot of ways with what Olivia is saying. I do think that the Spring Split has suffered in its sense of relevance. I also think that video games as a whole right now are suffering from questions of competitive integrity. However, I feel like then there's the old adage that the show must go on that applies here. I think it's unfair to cancel a competition that has been scheduled, that people are relying upon, not just the players, but the tournament organizers, the audience, and the sponsors all rely on the Spring Split to make revenue during a time when it's really hard to make revenue. as Olivia has stated, we're all and Austin, both of them stated that we're all kind of in isolation right now. And where Olivia says that the audience is selfish for wanting entertainment, I say that entertainment has never been more important than right now, where people can't go out to the bar, to a movie, to any number of other places in order to entertain themselves. And so I would say it's unfair to cancel the competition to all parties involved. Olivia said that a scrimmage could happen if we wanted to test new strategies, but I would say that that's not totally fair to the teams. See, teams compete differently when they're in actual competition, and people use the spring split right now to build new strategies and test their rosters. So if there's no scrimmage that can truly simulate that competition, it seems necessary that teams that are using the spring split be given the opportunity to. But secondly, although many players did vote to cancel it, a lot of players voted to keep it. So it feels as if the idea that the majority of players, which the majority of teams have been eliminated from playoff contention, so I wonder who voted to cancel it. Maybe the people who aren't going to the playoffs. And of course, we don't know that. But the point is that esports have a real opportunity right now to reach new audiences, since traditional sports have been canceled. LCS continuing is probably the best thing that could have happened to League of Legends in the long run. And if you cancel the spring split now, what you're doing is missing out on an opportunity to capitalize on an entirely new audience, which is always going to be better in the end for the sport as a whole. Now, to address the competitive integrity question, competitive integrity only applies when it's asymmetrical. When one team has a really bad connection, the other team has a really good connection, that's not a fair game, right? But they're playing on the same servers. Everyone's playing on the same field. So the idea that people can't play from home is ridiculous. How do you think these players became pros? Playing from home, online, on the ladder. That's how everybody does it. This is not new to the players. It's not a disadvantage to the players. If anything, this is taking esports back to its roots. Online competition to show who's best. My final argument is that if you cancel the spring split, Riot and every single team loses money. Sponsorships don't pay if you don't play. And I'm not saying that Riot deserves money. That's not my point. But are we saying that Cloud9 doesn't deserve to get paid out for the next 3 months? Are we saying that Team Liquid doesn't deserve to get paid out? These partnerships are put at risk at the point where LCS is not only canceling the spring split, but establishing a precedent where they can cancel large swaths of competitive events at any moment. That's not good for investor confidence. And in the end, it's not good for esports or League of Legends in the long run. So although I think Olivia makes some strong points about why it would make sense to cancel it in the short term, in the long term, I think the impact of that is detrimental to League of Legends' competitive scene.
All right. A strong rebuttal. I will offer no insight on where I am leaning.
Ooh, okay.
Continue on, Olivia.
Okay. So, let's see. Where to begin? You can cut out me thinking if you want.
No, we're going to leave it in. I'm just messing with you.
So you're saying it's unfair to cancel the competition basically because of sponsors and casters and revenue, but just because they will lose money, that doesn't mean that the LCS spring split should go on. Like, if you said people are looking for entertainment, then this is the time when people need entertainment more than ever. Well, why don't we just not have the LCS spring split and instead just do a lot of fun matches and grow the teams' personalities and fan bases like Overwatch League did while they were on break, with the fun matches with Echo and things like that, which was actually held in really high regard by fans, and everyone loved that. I think to instead make players compete in this uncompetitive setting where they don't feel motivated is not a good look. You say that you want new audiences to watch. Well, I don't want people tuning into LCS for the first time to see these teams at their worst and to see casters sitting at their home sort of just going, well, that was not good. Like, it's just not like a good look compared to how it's usually broadcast and the talent the teams usually bring. I think that instead we should be looking away from a competitive season and instead focusing on ways to entertain people. So these teams and the casters and everything would still be getting their money, and the teams wouldn't have to be airing how awful they are right now to everyone in the world, and can instead spend their free time scrimming as they normally would. You say that playing from home is how it all started, but I have spoken with players, and they have said out loud in interviews that it does not feel the same. They do not feel motivated being from their house, and that it doesn't feel as good as being on stage. They just don't like it. So even if you want to argue that that's how it was before, it's not how it is now, and they don't like it as much. So I think to force them to do it just because it's for our entertainment is not right.
A solid, if not strong, rebuttal. Now, it's time for Aaron's rebuttal. Triple rebuttal.
So Olivia makes some really interesting points, specifically about the comfort of players. And I think that the comfort of players is really important, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I feel like people should do their job regardless of how they feel about it, because that's what a job is. And that's not meant to sound callous, and it's not meant to say, oh, I don't care what the players feel. It's just the idea that we should cancel competitive events because people don't like the new format as much is a really dangerous precedent to set. So Olivia said that we should just do fun matches, right? So maybe we cancel the spring split, but we keep doing competitive matches. But I would say that alternative is worse. Olivia said that people had a really high regard for the fun match between the Gladiators and the Valiant and the Seoul Dynasty and
San Francisco.
It's San Francisco. But I watched that match. It was horrible and boring and lo-fi and not interesting and had no stakes. The reason people watch esports is because there are stakes. If I want to watch someone having fun playing video games, I can go watch streamers. I can go watch a lot of different people having fun playing video games. But when I'm interested in esports, I'm interested in the competition. And so Olivia actually brings up a really good example. Overwatch is a great example of why we should keep going through this COVID-19 crisis. Yesterday's Lo-Fi show was awesome. I mean, Nori the cat made the selections for who is going to be the Overwatch League bans for the next week. And that's an opportunity that we have because of the fact that everyone's stuck at home. I think that it's all about your perspective. If players go into their matches saying, oh, I don't feel the same way I am on stage, oh, I don't like playing from home, then they're going to have a bad time. But if players and casters and everyone involved go into those matches saying, we're going to make the most of a bad situation, then good things happen. We've seen that with the Overwatch League production crew. So I would say that generally everyone prefers the stage. But that doesn't mean that players shouldn't be competing, and it certainly doesn't mean that we should cancel a competition halfway through. Canceling a competition halfway through is demoralizing to the teams that are doing well, who are taking this seriously. Because just because 66% of people aren't taking it seriously, that means that 33% of the players and the teams are taking this seriously. And to rob them of the opportunity to succeed in the public eye is bad. The other big argument that Olivia made is this isn't the players at their best. But if we wait for competition to happen when the players are at their best, we might just always keep waiting. I don't even understand how we would make that decision at the end of the day. When are the players at their best, and how do we determine that? Feels far too arbitrary for sponsors to get on board with the league. Like I said, Olivia has not addressed at all the long-term implications of canceling competitive events with sponsors for no other reason than that the players weren't having as good of a time. I feel like that is detrimental to the future of League of Legends, and at the end of the day, we should value the future prospects of League of Legends more than the present depression that the players are going through and all of us are going through. I think we have to have a greater insight than that if we want esports to flourish in the long run.
And that, folks, concludes this debate over whether or not...
Wait a second, I'm supposed to have a last thing.
Oh!
Yeah, Olivia has one more.
Just kidding. There's a fourth rebuttal. Go ahead.
Did you want to redo that to say something that we can use so we can get rid of?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Oh, no, we're going to leave it. We're leaving it, y'all.
Leave
This
it
is
in.
a lo-fi podcast. We're doing this from home right now, by the way, everybody.
I prefer to be honest and open about being an idiot with my audience so they don't have high expectations of me.
Fair enough. That is very fair. So you said you watched the Overwatch League Echo Fun matches and they were horrible and boring, but I was looking at the comments and people were loving it. People were having a great time. And for you to say that since you were bored that it doesn't count, that doesn't really fly with me when the majority of comments were people having a really fun time watching. And you also said that when there's no stakes, that you can just watch streamers, but streamers are not the same. People watch esports because these are the top players, and even if they're not competing in something worth tons of money or anything, they are still being watched because they are considered to have the most skill, and that is the reason why it's entertainment for people, even if it's not for money or for a trophy. And just because you want them to go in with positivity doesn't mean they will at all. And you also said to talk about the longevity, like the effects that canceling the LCS would have on the LCS with sponsors and everything. Well, Dota 2 has actually canceled a lot of their major tournaments, and they still have their sponsors and support as far as I know. Obviously, everything is up in the air at this point. We can't really know what the outcome would be, but I do know that right now, in the current state and with the current opinions and with the current attitudes that the players and teams have, that the LCS should have canceled the spring split. Is it
finished now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is actually really hard. Casting aside my flippancy for a moment here, I think both of you presented some pretty compelling arguments. If I were going entirely by my mood today and not by how the winds are hitting the four corners of the earth, I would probably go with Olivia because we both work for Team Liquid and woohoo, hit that cancel button. Just hit that cancel button. But, to be fair, to the work that you both put in, I won't do that. And I have to say that it's very close. It's very close. But I think that I have to go with Aaron on this.
Cursed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But
foiled.
Blasted. Absolutely, yeah. But the thing is that I think it's hard to swat away this idea of what do you do with the sponsors? What do you do with the economic side of things? And I think that was where I felt things could be defended a little stronger. And then also there was the side of it of like the players not wanting to cancel, but is that fair to Cloud9? Because I did imagine if I were a Cloud9 fan and they cancel this split, how I would be feeling. It would not be good.
Let it go.
It would not be good. And so, it was tough. I could really see both sides, but I'm giving.
I couldn't really defend the sponsor thing properly because I, one, did not do any research on that, so I have no clue if Dota 2 still has all their sponsors or anything.
I think
and
they
two,
do.
I do agree that that is rough, so I can't really deny that too much. I just had to address it because, as Aaron said at the beginning, if you don't address what he says, then it is considered correct. So I was like, if I at least say one little thing, then it's not considered correct anymore.
Well, I would say that if the question was what you said it was at the end, should LCS have canceled the spring split, that would be a different debate. I think that it's like if they'd canceled it at the very beginning, even before COVID-19, that might have been a good call.
Right, that would have been insane, though. People would have been so mad. Because it would,
true.
The level of foresight, Anyways.
There'd be a lot of conspiracies there.
Oh my God.
They would be like, LCS released COVID-19. And be like, no, I don't.
Team
so
Liquid
release it.
Yeah.
That would be such a weird timeline. Anyways.
Very weird timeline.
I'm going to give you 13 spring split trophies, but I do want you to know...
Shit. That they
those
don't
are
count for
irrelevant
anything.
trophies, but I love it, and I want those trophies.
Did they count for MSI one at least?
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, but remember we're all in A, so you get like 13 tickets to lose at MSI. All right.
All right, so I will be the next judge. This debate will have Austin on the affirmative against Olivia on the negative, and the question is, or I guess I should say the statement that Austin will be defending is Link would be the best Super Smash Bros. Character to self-isolate with. So I'm very excited to hear what Austin has to say about Link, and I'm maybe even more excited to hear what Olivia will say in response. So let's get that started. Austin, take it away.
What qualities do we look for in someone we want to spend a lot of time with? Obviously, we look for a solid conversationalist. We look for perhaps a good cook to keep us well fed and to prevent us from going to the supermarket too often to buy too many microwave meals that won't sit well in our stomach. And we look for somebody who's kind of handsome, but also kind of cute. And in that aspect, in all three of those aspects, Link has got you covered. Now, I know what you're going to say. Doesn't Link just go, yeah, yeah? Well, not in Breath of the Wild, which is the version that he's in Smash Ultimate. He talks and says real human words and sometimes even demonstrates capacity for wit and sarcasm, which is great in a conversation partner. So I think that Link is going to be your pretty to look at, great cook, going on adventures, protect the household from when society collapses and there are all these people trying to steal toilet paper from you, and good conversationalist. I think he's got you just covered for everything you need while you're stuck in the house and while you're bored. Now, you're going to have to stop him from climbing on a few things. That's going to be the case. And you might have to stop him from breaking some pots. You might have to explain to him there's no rupees in there. There's just soil. But I argue the benefits of his presence are going to be much, much higher than those minor cons. And given that he does have the capacity for speech and critical thinking, as far as we can tell, he should be able to get it.
All right. So, strong affirmative case from Austin. Now let's hear what Olivia has to say about that.
Okay, so the first argument I made, I think you've already said something, but I have here. Okay, let's get this out of the way first. Link can't talk, and I see now that you have said he does. I have not played that game, so I cannot really comment on that, but as far as I remember, he doesn't say enough that it would really be of good benefit for how long you are isolated, for how long you are trapped inside. There is no knowing how long we'll be isolated for, and even the most antisocial introverts will get bored sitting alone with a man who can't hold a conversation after a few months. And Link has no known personality traits or interesting character points that make him even interesting to watch or silently spend time with, as far as I recall. And
No known personality traits.
I'll admit that if the world were to collapse and we ended up having to fend for ourselves in the wild, he has some useful skills, but that's not the question at hand. We are solely discussing being in isolation, which means that there is still food and shelter and toilet paper. There is no need for Link's randomly acquired camping abilities at all. Plus, you can still get delivery, so I don't think I really want his cruddy, weird campfire meals. I don't even know how you make a campfire meal inside. I would still just rather get delivery. And he also seems like the kind of guy who would cough without using his elbow, and also Link is a child. So I do not want to spend my time with a child at all. That is just my personal preference. Instead, I think the safest choice is Dr. Mario. During the pandemic, it's been made abundantly clear that our hospitals are going to collapse since there is a lack of supplies and doctors keep getting sick due to the lack of safety equipment. While the coronavirus may not be deadly to the entire population, a lot of people still live their day in fear of catching the virus, since they're unsure if they'll even be able to get tested or get the help they need if they happen to be one of the ones who experiences the deadly symptoms. Isolating with Dr. Mario would alleviate this fear because you would have a doctor by your side at all times, able to take your temperature and give you the proper medication because he seems to have endless supply. But the best choice is Kirby. He is adorable and all-powerful and would love nothing more than to sit at home with you and eat food all day. He is the most perfect creature in the entire world, and he would protect you at all costs while also being adorable and round. Kirby can also take on many different personalities and powers, so you'll never be bored. If you argue that Kirby isn't a good choice, you're basically Satan, and most likely hate anything good or pure. You may even be a serial killer, so good luck.
Well, that's tough.
And he can fly. She didn't even mention that.
I mean, yeah.
You can't even. You have to. You're just adding to him because you know it's the real answer.
All right.
I don't know how Austin's gonna come back from such a just impactful argument. I mean, Satan. That's some intense stuff. Let's hear what.
If I've learned anything from the internet, this is the part where I just screech ad hominem over and over and over until
ad hominem attacks. Those were ad hominem attacks.
Yeah, and I just freak out. But I'm going to resist doing that. So first, let's just address some of the criticism towards Link. Link is a weird entity that lives outside of time, so there are a lot of different details that kind of get mushy and don't always check out from game to game. So we have to take him in his Breath of the Wild form, where even his age isn't actually nailed down, but is actually over 100. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's some anime bullshit. And you're right, listener, it is. But even before his time freeze, where he gained 100 years artificially, he could have been anywhere between 17 and 19, which is about the age when like a person gets interesting and has things to say and some life experience that's good. Especially in
no
like
offense to the 14-year-olds in the audience.
Oh, look, I was a middle school teacher.
You'll get there.
You'll get there. You will. But the thing about Link is that, especially since he grew up in a sort of more medieval society, I think he would have more to say. It is true that he might be a man of little words. I can grant that concession. But I think he picks his words well. If you're looking at Breath of the Wild, the writing is very snappy. The dialogue is very nice. And I would also say that we're not really fully considering just how miraculous a cook Link is. So Link only needs a wok. That's all you're going to ever have to wash in terms of dishes. He just needs a wok. He puts the wok on a source of fire. That's all he needs. And then he throws random shit in there, just random stuff. And then a really incredibly aesthetically pleasant noise, like just the tink thing happens. And then bink, you got like a really good meal. And not only is that meal really good, but like randomly, sometimes that meal will make you like impervious to fire, which is sick. What a great way to spend time. So I think that Link, it's a really, really strong outdoorsman, a really, really strong cook. And those things actually can be nice even in self-isolation because you can still go outside too. He can still take you on a horse ride. Now, to counter the other 2 points, Dr. Mario, where did his license come from? What are in those pills? Unclear. Unclear. And he's throwing those pills at people and they damage them. So that seems to me more like poison than healing. I'm just saying. So I don't trust that guy. And if he was a good doctor, he'd be on the front lines in the ICUs, so you'd be exposing yourself even more to COVID.
I'm not scared.
Now, Kirby.
Don't you dare.
While I knew this was going to happen, I worked with Olivia long enough to know this was going to happen.
He was waiting. This is why you have to debate with random
I may
people.
worship Satan, but that is totally separate to this argument. Then has nothing to do with why I'm going to fight against Kirby here. So the real thing about Kirby is really just appetite and understanding. Kirby is even more of a child than Link in this weird way, where he's sort of like a child by merit of being an eldritch god that has like never had to have challenge in his life. Like Kirby is so powerful that he like doesn't understand adversity, and therefore it can never really be an adult. It's like kind of perpetually a child. So while Kirby would be fun at first, eventually Kirby would start just inhaling everything in your house, and then it would be like Kirby's taking all your food, he's eating all of it, he's eating your fridge, and then like Kirby would randomly just leave for 3 days to like fight an eldritch god while you just starve to death. Because Kirby doesn't really understand you. He's not a person. He's not close enough to really self-isolate with.
Whoa.
Yeah, this...
And
whoa. Check the bigotry. Just kidding.
Listen. It's nothing against Kirby. Kirby's incredible, right? He's incredible for a lot of things. If you ask me the best character
He's
to
just
fight
not a
off,
person. Okay.
Yeah. What do you he's tiny and pink. He's an orb. What do you mean, yeah, he's not a person? Okay. He's definitely not he is not a homo sapien. He is clearly not a human being. So, this pink ball is only going to say Poyo. He's going to eat all your stuff, and he's going to float away, and he's going to leave you high and dry, because he just doesn't understand. He's a child. He's a child. You can't put him in this world of harsh realities. He's got to stay in dreamland, where he belongs, where he's happy. Don't expose him to late capitalism.
Send him back to where he came from. Okay, Austin.
Wow.
Let's hear what Olivia has to say now.
I can't believe my words are getting twisted like this.
Okay. So, Link is physically 17, but biologically over 100. I actually just looked this up. Presumably he's 17, since that's the age he's been in both Twilight Princess and Skyward Swords. In an interview with Nintendo Dream, I can't pronounce this name, I'm assuming it's the guy who created Zelda series, stated that Link is 16 years old in Twilight Princess, and according to Hyrule Historia, Link from Skyward Swords is 17 and a half years old. So I do not want to be in a house with a teenager, no thanks, even if they're attractive, which I would never even admit if he was or even notice, because he is 17 and I will call the police. So... You also say that he can cook and walk, and that's all you'll have to wash. Well, I don't care, because I have a dishwasher. I don't care how many things I have to wash, and I also just use paper plates, so that is relevant.
And she's a
I
dishwasher.
also hate home-cooked meals. I do not want a home-cooked meal at all. I think they taste disgusting. So I do not care about that. And also, where is his horse? Where is he keeping this horse? I live in downtown LA. I do not see there being any room for this horse, so that is also irrelevant. Dr. Mario, yeah, screw him, whatever. I don't know. He sucks. He doesn't have a license, I'm sure. So, I would happily give Kirby all my food. I do not care. And also, like I said, I only order takeout, so he doesn't even have the option to raid my fridge because there's already nothing in there. So I would just order, and whatever I got, he would eat, and that's it. So that's fine with me, and if he wants to float around finding food, that's fine, because he is immortal and doesn't get diseases, doesn't carry diseases, so he is always safe, and he is always pure and wholesome. And Kirby does understand. He everything he does on his home planet and in that universe is to save other people and to save his planet. He's not going around doing stuff because he feels like it or because he's a dopey little kid. He's doing it to save an entire civilization from starvation. So I think he knows what's going on, and he would not, since that is one of the things he has done in the past, I do not see him starving me or anyone else during this epidemic, since that is actually what he saved his own planet from in the past. Yeah, Kirby likes to eat, but who doesn't? And also, he kisses his friends to heal them, and if that's not enough for you, you're a sick bastard, and I don't know what else to say.
Wow. All right, we're going to get our final word from Austin here.
So there's a good point about the horse, I'll admit. But generally speaking, you don't really need to care for the horse. Link just kind of stables it. He just like goes up and just
Where is it stabled?
puts it away.
Where is it?
So I think
It doesn't matter. He whistles and it comes to him.
Yeah, I think in sort of the same way you're saying this magic of Kirby exists, it also exists with Link.
Okay, that's fair.
Now, the other thing about Link's age that is tricky is there's some proof in Breath of the Wild that he's actually of legal age and above 18, because there's a cutscene where he goes into a sauna and they like explicitly say that you have to be above a certain age to get in.
But where
like,
is
you have
this
to be an
located?
adult.
Because in Japan, you don't have to be as old for things, so
It's in Hyrule.
think about that.
So it's within his own society.
We don't know the rules of Hyrule. No one knows. Anyway, go on.
Well, no, we
We're
don't.
not supposed to be talking right now anyway.
But then the other thing too is that this home cooked meal is basically like a delivered out meal, right? Like this is something that like replenishes you. This is something that has like several hearts. This is something that you can just do like with like very minimal ingredients. So you're also saving a lot of money. So I think that's relevant to everybody, because then you can use that money for all sorts of other stuff that you want to do.
All I do is spend money on takeout. That's it. He's taking away my
Darn it,
fun
Olivia.
during this time.
This is
He's
a
taking
general
away my
argument for a
fun.
general audience. Some people might spend their money on
This is
horses.
my only enjoyment.
So this still applies to the wider world. Not everybody spends all their money on takeout. Some people might have to spend all their money on rent. I don't know. And it might be really hard in these times of COVID. So, if you are even in danger of an eviction during COVID, Link's got you covered. No one's going to mess with you with Link around, 1. 2,
Kirby
you're
is the
constantly
most
have
strong
food.
thing in the universe.
Hey, I'm talking here. I'm
I can't.
talking here,
I can't.
Olivia.
Olivia
can't.
chose something too personal, and she can't let it go.
Can
Oh,
Link
man.
hit a planet away light years with a
You
baseball
don't need
bat?
that.
I don't think so.
You don't need somebody to defeat an eldritch god. You need somebody to sit with you in a house alone for like 4 months, and Link is best for that. Because Kirby, if you don't want to spend time with a teenager, let me tell you, you don't want to spend time with a toddler who can only say one word, like Poyo. You're gonna have no conversation. You're gonna be talking to this Kirby like it's a pet, but it's like not even totally like that because it's like kind of sentient, so it's gonna be weird. And then also Kirby like has this compulsion to save its world or whatever, but that's dreamland. Like in this world, I think there's almost something immoral about bringing Kirby into our world, especially during a time where everyone is confined by viruses and freaking out and just engaging in their like deep, weird, conceited hoarding instincts. I think that you bring Kirby into that, it doesn't make me the bad person, Olivia. It doesn't make me the bad person.
This is not an argument of did we bring them in from their world and drag them into the toilet paper
It has to be
hoarding
that argument,
America?
Olivia. It has to be that argument.
Okay.
There's no isolation in
Okay,
Dreamland.
then you have dragged a
All right, I'm
teenager into your
calling
house.
this. I'm calling it.
Yeah, okay.
That's probably for the best.
So
I'm about to get fired.
I think Austin made some really strong points, and I also think Olivia made some really strong, if very personal, points about Kirby. So I end up going in favor of Olivia because she's my boss, and I don't want to get fired for shitting on her love of Kirby. I would say that I think that there were some legitimate points made by Austin about his cooking abilities, but I think that the risk to the pots in our homes is a very real risk, and I think that Link's limited ability to hold a conversation wasn't adequately
Kirby can't even
addressed.
talk.
See, but that's the thing.
This is ridiculous. This is kangaroo court.
Neither can Olivia's cat, and she loves him. See, so
What?
I
That
just
could
don't
apply to
see
Link.
the impact. Right, but I feel like you need to read out those impacts because Kirby is cute and adorable, and Link is the hero of Hyrule, and those two things are just very different.
I've been robbed. That's
probably true. Most of Olivia's points are very much for Olivia.
Yeah, I was just being weird. I was not taking that seriously at all.
No, but seriously, if I had to vote on the argument, it's probably Austin.
You can
just
do that. That's fine. That he
just
took more time
because
to make real points.
I feel like the issue with Kirby is that even though you're okay with Kirby eating all the food in your house, I don't know if everyone would be. You know what I mean?
But where's the proof that Kirby just goes out and steals people's food? He's never done that.
I feel like that's his whole character thing, though, right?
He eats a lot of food if it's available, but he doesn't go into like Waddle Dee's houses and just
become the most contentious topic?
Well, it's because Olivia really likes Kirby. That's how it became the most contentious topic.
Very true.
He's F tier, but he is S tier in my heart.
So instead of calling a winner and a loser on this one, I'm going to award 5 stars to Olivia for her advocacy of Kirby, and I'm going to reward 10 rupees to Austin for his defense of Link, and you can find an exchange rate somewhere in the bylaws of the show.
Okay.
Looks like they are worth 1.5 chicken dinners.
Yes. So
fantastic.
So 1.5 chicken dinners each.
I don't even know.
So remember to keep track of your points.
We'll both need that in this self-isolation time. Okay. This one is a topic I know nothing about. This is Echo overpowered? I don't play Overwatch. I don't watch Overwatch. I barely know anything about this game. I think I played it back in 2016. Anyways, is
Great
Echo overpowered?
First, let's talk about who Echo is. Echo is the latest hero in Overwatch. She's a DPS, and she has a variety of DPS abilities and like this really strong flight ability. Think of her as a moth that kills people. That's probably the best way to think of the character design. So, a lot of people when she came out thought that she was pretty overpowered because her ultimate lets her duplicate another person on the battlefield and then use their ultimate ability very quickly. It's a 650% increase in how quickly she generates the ultimate, which means that she can use a Reinhardt ult a couple times. So I want to make some distinctions before we get to that, though. So the first distinction I want to make is that overpowered and oppressive are two different things. Oppressive means her abilities essentially dictate how everyone else is going to play the game. Bastion or Baptiste are good examples of characters with oppressive abilities. But Bastion isn't overpowered just because he's oppressive. They're two different things. You can easily kill Bastion using even basic teamwork, but if you're in bronze, he feels real oppressive because no one knows how to kill him there. I don't think that Echo's oppressive. A good indication that a character's overpowered is when they make other characters who were once viable completely obsolete, which is why I think Echo's overpowered. In my opinion, Echo makes Pharah, who is like the other flying character, Pharah flies and fires rockets, Echo totally takes her out of the meta. There's no reason to play her. Echo has far more damage potential, a better flight ability, and a way better ultimate. Pharah's ultimate gets you killed like 90% of the time. Echo's ultimate, if you kill her during it, she doesn't die. She just reverts back to Echo. That's insane. Not only that, but Echo's actual ultimate ability is ridiculous. It lets her use sometimes 2 or 3 of the most powerful ultimates in the game over the span of 15 seconds. She can build 2 Reinhardt shatters in 8 seconds. If I told you that anyone else could pull off 2 ultimates in 8 seconds, you would probably tell me that's overpowered, because it is. The flexibility of her ultimate also contributes to the overtuned nature of her entire kit. Highly skilled players can analyze a situation and they can steal a support, tank, or DPS hero to contribute to the team fight and use their ultimate. That's ridiculous. Especially when you consider the fact that other people's ultimate, for example, Symmetra's ultimate, doesn't even do damage, like at all. I would say that Echo's entire kit is not inherently overpowered, but as we stand right now, Echo's ultimate is 100% overpowered, and her abilities are so good that she makes other characters that play her same role irrelevant, which to me is the hallmark of what it means to be overpowered. She's super cool, super fun, and super overpowered.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. I've got to
Yeah.
say that Echo looks like a pretty nifty character. All right, Olivia, it's your turn.
So, Echo has been touted around as sort of an overpowered hero because that's what Overwatch players love to do when any new hero is released. They love to say
true.
they're overpowered and need to be nerfed and that they're going to break the game. And the only time this was true so far was Brigitte, and now she's completely useless.
And Sigma.
I don't know if that's a different conversation anyway. Okay,
Yeah, it is.
so
It is.
many people are pointing to Echo's ability to melt tanks and barriers as one reason she is overpowered. But nobody said that about Reaper, who can literally sneak up behind a tank and kill them in 4 good hits. Echo is also a flanker, but she is able to fly and float and stay at a safer distance, which can also be pointed at as a reason she might be overpowered. But what good does floating do when there are heroes like Widowmaker and McCree? It's not like with 222, any team is going to be playing all tanks and find themselves just getting completely wrecked constantly without any counters. Plus, Echo's flying powers were already nerfed, and they will most likely see further alterations before she is released to public servers. She isn't able to glide across the map anymore. In fact, Pharah has more airtime than her, and nobody is saying Pharah is OP at all. But I also don't think Pharah is completely obsolete. She does splash damage and pushes people back instead of being sort of a more accurate projectile person. So people looking for crowd control would probably still pick Pharah. And Sinatra did say that, for anyone wondering, that is San Francisco shock dude, he said that he sees Echo being played 95% of the time. That could point at saying, oh, well, that proves she's overpowered. But instead, that means that almost all teams will be playing team comps with Echo in mind. She will be easily countered with other teams not playing certain heroes to avoid her taking their ultimate or taking them down by flanking, etc. So Echo's ultimate is seen as one of the sources of her OPness, the ability to copy an enemy hero and get their ultimate. Yeah, it sounds like the most flexible and insane ultimate when you hear that, but it's really not. Not only was the cost of Echo's ultimate increased, but simply copying an ultimate doesn't automatically make for a game-changing play. In fact, most smart players will avoid playing certain heroes on the opposing team, as I said, to counter Echo, leaving some of the best ultimates unavailable. Echo also relies heavily on teamwork, since your entire team will need to decide which ultimate actually makes an impact, which they can combine with their own, and when to do it. But we all know how DPS players work. Echo players will most likely go off on their own, pick a random enemy hero, and then play their ultimate right when they get it charged up. This will, more often than not have any impact on the game at all. If simply copying Reinhardt and using Earthshatter was so OP, people would be complaining about Reinhardt and using him consistently in every meta, but that's not the case. So Echo being able to copy him will not automatically make her powerful or some insane game changer.
Okay, guys, I got some exciting news. I got some Echo facts here.
Okay.
Echo is an evolutionary robot programmed with a rapidly adapting artificial intelligence, versatile enough to fill multiple battlefield combat roles. Okay, Aaron, it's your turn.
So, Olivia made some really interesting points here about the way that people are going to play Echo. Let's address these one at a time. So the first one that I want to talk about is this 95% from Sinatra. She says it's because people will be building their comps with Echo in mind. But I would say that if a player has a 95% pick rate, that's hallmark overpowered, right? Brigitte is someone that Olivia mentioned as someone who was overpowered, and she had a really high pick rate at high levels because she's overpowered. You say it won't make Pharah obsolete, but Pharah does splash damage the same way that Echo does. Echo has an alternative ability with her sticky bombs that does splash damage that actually has a lower cooldown than Pharah's flight ability. And I would say that the biggest point that needs to be made is on the last point that Olivia made, which is that if Echo's ult is overpowered, it's because other people's ults are overpowered. That's not true, because other people get to use one ult at a time. Echo can use that player's ult 2 or 3 times in 15 seconds. That is extraordinary. No one can use 3 of their ult in a row in 15 seconds. So that's what makes it overpowered. You say that other teams will just choose characters who it wouldn't be damaging to have their ultimate duplicated, but that's only more evidence that she's overpowered. If I'm making my entire team composition around the fact that they might have an Echo, that is incredibly influential in the meta in a way that's unprecedented. Yes, Reaper can kill a tank in 4 hits, but Reaper can't steal that tank's ultimate and use it 3 times in 15 seconds. Yes, other people can melt shields, but most people don't do 250 damage per second if the shield is below half health. Echo has all the best abilities that any DPS character has, all in one kit. That's just overpowered. And you can try to nerf her damage, you can try to nerf her flight ability, you can try to nerf her ultimate, but at the end of the day, you still handed her 3 high damage neutral abilities and the best ultimate in the game. And unless they fundamentally rework her, I think that that's going to end up overpowered most of the time.
All right, good job, Aaron. Okay, so for the first time, Echo is seeing action as a full-fledged team member. But as she's exposed to new people, new ideas, and new situations without her creator to guide her, no one knows how she might evolve in the future. Ooh. Anyways.
It's true. We don't know if they will nerf her or buff her.
Or buff her. Who knows? She might be a competitive staple. But we do know that much of Echo's personality is based on Dr. Mina Liao, her creator. Anyways, that's all for Echo lore updates. Olivia, it's your turn.
So, just because someone has a high pick rate does not mean that they are OP. It just means... It means a lot of different things, which is totally sort of irrelevant to this debate, but it can mean an abundance of things. There's a variety of factors. Just think about how Mei had a high pick rate at the beginning of the season of the Overwatch League. I mean, I wouldn't say she's OP. Maybe she's annoying. Maybe you don't like her abilities, but she's not OP. Also,
says the Mei main. Okay.
But I don't think she is. I'm also Sombra and Diva, so it's not like anyway, whatever. So, so just because people pick comps around Echo also doesn't mean she's OP. It's very common for people to pick team comps and metas that address something the other team is doing. That's normal. That's strategy. That's what you're supposed to do. If a team is succeeding with a certain hero, even if they suck and that person just happens to be great with them, that doesn't automatically mean, oh, now that hero is great. Now Soldier is the best in the game. It just means that person on the other team is doing something really good with Soldier, and now your team has to do something to deal with that. So that doesn't really mean that Echo is some OP character, hero. It just really depends how the team is playing her. And that brings me to the other point that having 3 ults in a row, if you can get there, is definitely insane, but it's not guaranteed, and it's not guaranteed, and even if you do get there, it doesn't guarantee that anything will happen. It still really depends on the strategy and whose hands Echo is in. Most people I know would probably just keep blowing the ultimate right when they get it and just pick whatever opponent is in front of them and just play. And that doesn't automatically make Echo great or make her a game changer or make your team better because of her. It still requires strategy. And in fact, Echo might bring some teams down who don't have that level of communication or that level of strategy, because if you don't have that knowledge of every single hero's ultimate and what they do for the game, they're not just about, who does the most damage. They have strategies behind them, and you're supposed to combine ultimates with other people on your team. And if you aren't able to think of those strategies quick enough, then her getting a random person's ultimate means nothing.
Okay. Good argument from Olivia. One kind of point that I think is interesting, or question that I think is interesting, is why does this robot kind of have titties? That's weird.
Right?
Anyways.
I think I don't know if I heard you correctly, so you can get rid of this if this is not what you just said. But I think in an earlier design, when she was in the McCree short, she actually had like a butt, like you could see like 2 visible butt cheeks. And then in her recent design, she doesn't have that at all. So she was nerfed.
She was nerfed. All right. Well, with that strong lore note, Aaron, it's your turn to close us out.
So I think that what this round comes down to is a question of what we mean by overpowered. I stated at the beginning that I think overpowered means that you make characters obsolete and that you define how other people will play the game. And I think that Echo does both those things. Echo definitely makes Pharah obsolete. I think that it's pretty clear that Echo has far more utility and a better ultimate than Pharah, and that she is able to dive in a way that Pharah just can't. Like, Pharah can be in the air longer, sure, but that only makes her up there longer to get shot by Widow. Echo's ability lets you move in any direction, which makes you far harder to hit. So she makes Pharah obsolete, and I would say that she makes a lot of DPS projectile heroes obsolete because she's just so fucking good. But I would also say that that if you make other people play around you, that probably is an indication that you're either an exceptional player or that your character's overpowered. Or in this case, I think it's both, because I don't think that a character has to be easy to use to be considered overpowered. It's not about the skill floor, it's about the skill ceiling. And I think that Echo has a really high skill ceiling. Like you said, like, you have to use her abilities strategically, sure, but I think that anyone could agree that 3 Reinhardt shatters in 15 seconds is devastating to any team, no matter how good you are. That's a really powerful ultimate ability, and I challenge you to find one ultimate ability in this game that is anywhere near that power. There isn't one. That's the best ultimate in the game, bar none. On top of the fact that people simply won't play Sombra. People simply won't play Ana because they don't want 3 Ana ults to go down or 2 Sombra EMPs to go down. Literally, you should not play Sombra, because by the time you charge your Sombra ult, Echo will have her ult and will be able to steal your ultimate and put 2 down where you would just put down 1 EMP. She literally breaks the game as far as the compositions, and it's good to have influence, but it's bad to literally make Sombra and Pharah unplayable. So I would say that that's why I think she's overpowered.
All right. That was pretty good. I want to chime in with my sort of last Echo thought of the day.
More lore.
More lore. Actually, don't have much more lore left to say, other than that as she continues to adapt, free from the confines of a lab, those around her wonder whether Echo will remain an echo of her creator or become her own person. Interesting thought. I think she'll remain an echo of her creator because her design strikes me as really bland and uninspiring for an Overwatch character, now that I've been looking at it for more than 5 minutes.
I mean, the boobs didn't do anything for you?
No, the hips almost did, but...
if they'd had a butt, though.
If it had a butt,
been like,
oh my gosh.
That nerf was huge.
Then I would just, become horny, and my brain would fall out of my ears, and I would like the bland, uninspired design. Anyways, I'm not going to insult this game I don't play. Instead, I'm going to talk about the merits of your guys' arguments. I think they were both pretty good. I think I'm going to have to give it to Aaron, and the reason I'm going to give it to Aaron is I do really agree with his point about the skill ceiling and not the skill floor. I think that somebody like Joker in Smash is arguably overpowered, at least at the top of the cast, and he's really hard to play. So he's not played by a lot of lower levels. He's not overpowered at the lower level like Little Mac is. But that's the nature of a lot of these games, right? The leveling of a character, we have to, the only way we can see overpowered, I think, for it to be meaningful as a term, is at the highest level. And then I did disagree with your point, Aaron, that making a character irrelevant is necessarily like a sign of being OP.
Sure.
At least from being a league player, there are just so many champions that sometimes they kind of just make themselves irrelevant. Or sometimes like a random change to the game, to the meta, like makes them irrelevant. Perhaps in Overwatch where things are a little bit less map driven and more character driven.
No, I think you're right. I think that's probably that's.
I think one thing that's interesting is I think me and Aaron both actually are more in the middle about this topic.
Yeah, we are. Neither of us really think she's overpowered, but we also think she's very good.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and I mean it's hard, right, when it's the character's just released because it's like, who knows?
Yeah, and Olivia made a really good point that, like, everyone says anytime a character comes out, they're like, it's going to break the game. Like, when Ashe came out, they were like, she's so good, and Ashe is the worst character in the game now. And it's like, okay.
And that was what I did like. I thought that point for Olivia was really good. I also kind of wanted her to challenge you on the, making a character like that base sort of thing.
Irrelevant.
Yeah, because I just didn't totally agree with that. But then I thought within the confines of debate, But yeah, ultimately, I think you had a good argument there as someone who doesn't know the game. Sounds pretty OP that she gets to fly around in all sorts of directions, and she's faster than the other flying character, and she can steal your ult. I hate that Silas does that. So it's bad. And yeah. Oh, right. Aaron, I am going to give you 3 payloads.
3 payloads. That's a lot of payloads.
Yeah.
That's a lot of payloads.
Is that even like a reward in Overwatch? I guess you could argue it is. I mean, it is what you're trying to move. Yeah.
Yeah, I played Team Fortress 2 a lot, so anyways. And then Olivia, I did like some of your arguments, so I'm going to give you
Motorcycle Guy's back, guys.
Yeah.
Yay. To keep my job after the Kirby art and this, I'm going to give you 1 complimentary Pollo.
Yay! That's like worth more than all of these, you could argue.
I think we all got a lot of arbitrary internet points today, and that was really cool. And I really that was our last round, so got one last thing to do, which is the bonus round.
Oh.
This is based off consensus vote. I have 4 questions, and we're all going to try to figure out what the right answer is. You guys ready for it?
Hold on.
He's
okay,
preparing.
I'm ready.
He's preparing. All right. The first question is, does Yoshi have a soul?
Yes.
Austin.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Gosh, this is tough. So here's the thing.
Well, we know Olivia thinks yes, so that's good.
Olivia's got a strong yes.
I was hoping we would all argue over each other like annoying children.
Oh, no, we can totally do that.
I'm like, okay, so here's the thing. I'm really willing to be swayed on this. I'm at like 60% no.
Well, why wouldn't he have a soul? Do you think like a cat has a soul?
This is a tough... So...
Let me ask you this, Austin.
Yeah.
Has anyone who doesn't have a soul ever played tennis before?
God, that's a weird question. Maybe? I don't...
I mean, see, Yoshi and Birdo both play tennis in Mario Tennis.
He's also in the Olympics, so he's played a lot more than that.
I think you have to have a soul to be in the Olympics. Isn't that like one of the IOC rules?
We could look it up. It might just be. These are strong arguments for it. I'm just also wondering...
I don't know.
If you're just sort of this animal that eats anything and just like poops it out and you like don't have any regard for your children and you're just throwing them all over the place, doesn't that feel more like a base animal that doesn't have a soul? What do we think?
But doesn't he protect baby Mario in Yoshi Island?
They're not his own kids.
But,
You know what
I
I mean?
mean, then that gets into like a real deep argument. Are they really kids? They're not born yet.
Darn it.
Sorry, you broke up
Yeah,
for me there.
same here.
Yeah, I hope that the audio that people are getting is fine, because you guys have been breaking
The
up
audio
like,
will be fine.
constantly.
It's
just a
Okay,
connection.
because that's why I got confused with the echo. I was
Afterwards.
like, did he just actually say she had boobs or hips? I could not hear. Okay, so I was hoping that my butt comment wasn't super random. Okay, so going back to what I said is this would go into a deeper argument, because are they born yet? Are they really children? I mean, people throw eggs at houses. Are we murderers?
Oh shit.
So
That's a
are
good
they
point.
fertilized Yoshi eggs? That matters.
He doesn't ever sit on them or ever do anything. They just get pooped out, and we eat chicken eggs that get pooped out like that, and we throw them at houses.
Is that even how Yoshi's born? Do we even know?
I don't even know.
So.
I think we do see Yoshi come out of eggs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he like hatches every time you find him in like Super Mario World.
So I don't really know if I would say he doesn't have a soul because he throws eggs. But I won't make that deeper than it has to be. But I think we know what I'm saying here. But also, I mean, does at that point, let's just say they are real for the sake of this. Like, let's just say they are not just a bunch of blood inside an egg, and they're like a real live Yoshi inside that's like crying and waiting to be born any second. Well, one, we don't even, when he throws the eggs, we don't even see a baby Yoshi come out, so I don't know if that can even be true. But two, would that make him not have a soul? Like, just because you're an awful human, does that mean that you don't have a soul? Like,
That's
what
true.
defines
There's a lot
having
of
a
people
soul? Like,
there's a lot of people committing war crimes right now who technically have souls.
Right, and this gets into what has a soul. Animals, people, bad animals, good people, good animals.
I personally don't believe in souls and reincarnation, any of that crap, but let's just say I did, and that I think humans have a soul, then I think that means Yoshis would have a soul if that were the case.
Okay, it's like an all or nothing thing.
Because why would only humans? What makes us so great that all these other animals,
and like octopi,
are you saying
definitely
an octopi,
have souls.
yeah, like, or an ant doesn't have a soul? Like, why are we so much better because we're self-absorbed and think we're like on here for a reason? Like, what makes humans so great? Why is our life meaningful but every other animal just exists? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I guess.
Yeah, don't be so anthrocentric, man.
I don't see. The thing is like, it's like just such an informal line, right? Because of course I'm fine with an octopus having a soul. Because those guys are sick and super intelligent.
Octopi are super smart.
But then if you ask me,
I guess
like
the question
a wasp
comes down
has a soul,
to,
I don't know.
Has Yoshi ever demonstrated intelligence?
Right. I don't know. I guess I tie soul to
I mean, would anyone play a game for Yoshi if he just was a complete dumbass and like?
I mean, that kind of convinces me, yeah.
Like, he has multiple games where he's the hero, and what makes him so different than when Mario's the hero? Because there's more dialogue when Mario's the hero.
I mean, now we're assuming Mario has a soul. Maybe he doesn't. I feel like it's an all or nothing thing. Either Mario and Yoshi have souls.
Humans have a soul. I don't think anyone does, but if we're arguing that humans have a soul, then I think Yoshi does.
Well, I think that a soul does exist, and if we're arguing all or nothing, which I actually do think kind of makes sense from a philosophical standpoint, unless you're trying to separate along the lines of intelligence, it gets messy.
Yeah, why do you have to be smart to have a soul? What about someone with like a 5 IQ, but they're a human still? Do they not have a soul now?
Right, yeah.
This is why Heidegger never answered the question of what a Dasein is.
I'll say yes, Yoshi has a soul, but I feel like, Olivia, your true answer is no. Because nothing has a soul.
That's true.
It is, but I think for the sake of this argument, I have to say he does, because we all have to be on the same page.
I think we all agree that Yoshi has a soul for the sake of the discussion.
Yeah.
So the next question is, what is the status of Yoshi domestication then?
See, that's even harder for me, because the other one is sort of saying, like, is Yoshi deserving of a soul based on humans think they're so great, and that's just an annoying argument. But this one is, like, based on facts of the game, and it's hard to say. I would say that it's sort of like cats. It's sort of like they chose it, maybe, or some are willing and some aren't. Like, there are like horses. There are wild Yoshis running around. Like in the Smash Ultimate, his final Smash, there's like Yoshi herds, and those are the wild Yoshis. Those are the wild Yoshis. And then there are Yoshis that are domesticated, that are more docile and easier to tame, to be your pet or companion or slave, apparently. So
I mean, I think your point earlier was really, I agree with it, which is that, like, cats choose to be domesticated, so do dogs. Like, they want to be domesticated, so it's actually like, I think that Yoshis have demonstrated that same sort of attitude, so
Right.
maybe it's okay if the Yoshi consents. It's maybe a consent-based type thing, you know?
Right. Well, yeah, and it is
It's like
interesting
horses.
because people would argue.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on the money on this, Olivia. As the resident Yoshi main, of course, you have the strongest connection to Yoshi, and I think you're right about the status of domestication. But I think too, if we're looking at like, you know, how then it also answers like how Yoshis are treated too, because it's like then when you're Mario and you jump off the Yoshi and you kill the Yoshi, you deserve to be arrested for Yoshi
Well,
abuse.
I don't know if I would say that, because when you think of like a war and people on their horses, some of those horses get shot or they fall over, and no one's arrested for it. So
But don't they deserve to be?
I think it's weird
that's a
to bring
different
horses
question.
into battle. I think it's weird. Maybe they should be on four-wheelers, but whatever. I don't know.
Why bring horses into this? This is a human versus human affair. The horse knows nothing about this.
I know, and I don't
That's
think
true.
Yoshi, like, that's another question. Does Yoshi care if Peach is rescued or not? Does he have any stake in this? Is he sort of more like a dog where he's just like, if Mario's happy, I'm happy? Or
Right.
is Yoshi more like, I really care about this too because I think on the same level as a human in that sense
Right.
that I don't want a woman to be kidnapped and held against her will by a rapist.
Right. Yeah, that's.
I mean, that's an important distinction, right? Like, I'm not sure which way Yoshi's supposed to go, because the gameplay doesn't tell us a lot about that, other than that he's undyingly devoted to Mario.
One thing
himself.
that is weird is if you do get hurt, Yoshi, when he's by himself, will now run around in circles and sort of seems lost. So
It's like he,
that's sort of interesting aspect that makes me question if he is either just that loyal to Mario or if he is that dumb. I don't think he is that dumb because it's just he has his own. But you know what though? That those
He
kind of
understands
games
the
are
rules of tennis.
earlier. I wonder if he's evolved from then. And before he was sort of stupid, but over time he's
smart.
grown more intelligent.
that could be.
I think we've
That
mostly
could be.
solved it, though,
I mean,
right?
we've seen thousands of generations of Yoshis come into the world and then perish.
Yeah, that's true.
In the
It's
games.
unclear what the Mario timeline is as well. Like if it's Zelda and things sort of change or not.
It seems like Mario's immortal.
It does seem that way. Like,
Yeah.
that's
I
just how
guess
Nintendo rolls.
I'm just going by like the older games and how Yoshi was in the older games and how the newer games are sort of
Yeah.
just emulating
I think
that
we can
for
mark
our
this off, though.
enjoyment.
I think we can say.
No, yeah, I was just saying that like I consider like the newer platforms of Mario to be sort of emulating the old ones, and not necessarily are part of a new timeline. So they're sort of just like, okay, so back in the day when Yoshi started out, they were running around like doofuses. But newer games that are not based on an older game are his new form.
So, I feel like we've got this mostly settled then, right?
Yeah, I think so. You're allowed to domesticate a Yoshi if he consents.
Yes. And at the same time, there's some that are wild, there's some that are not domesticated. And if you ride a Yoshi into war, or you throw it off a chasm, that's Yoshi abuse, and you should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
It's Yoshi's side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last question we have is, are all Yoshis actually one Yoshi in a Yoshi-like hive mind?
So I feel like we already solved that, but at the same time, it's sort of interesting to just sort of picture that all these Yoshis are sort of just one instead,
you
and
cut
that
out
these are
there,
the same
but yeah.
character over and over again. But I think if we go by what we already established, that each Yoshi is their own person.
With their own free will and
Right,
stuff.
yeah. And I don't think besides the herd that we see, and no one should be seeing it, because if you have the Smash on, I don't want to play with you anyway, but let's
Don't
just
bring
say
that
you
in,
are
I think,
unfortunate
but-
enough to see someone play that way. Then, for fun,
How dare
they? But anyway, if we like are to see that herd of Yoshis, that's like the only time we really see him sort of all together like that. And Yoshi's story, like his own story, there are multiple Yoshis, and they're all in that castle thing together. And they all sort of are doing their own thing, and sacrificing themselves one at a time. So I don't know. I think that they...
Yeah, there's also unique Yoshis in Paper Mario that all have different names and stories and like desires. So I think that we can pretty much establish that Yoshi...
Oof.
Each Yoshi's a unique Yoshi.
That's like a lore nail in the lore coffin. Isn't it?
Yeah, got him.
Yeah, that's done. Ooh, take that to the bank. I kind of do love the idea of Yoshi's being a hive mind, just fortunately does not seem to be a reality in the lore. I mean, how great would that be?
I want to end this with one more thing. That is all.
Wow. That was impressive.
Yeah. And we don't know who won. You guys can calculate whatever you think this all means. Except I have to say that Pollo, I believe, is worth more than the others, but that is just my opinion based on facts.
Oh boy, what have I done? I've been reckless with my judging powers. Alright, well, until next time then.
Thanks for listening to Qrank Media's presentation of Super Debate Battle Royale Deathmatch. Today's hosts were Olivia Richmond, Aaron Alford, and Austin Ryan. We will be coming back with more episodes of Super Debate Battle Royale Deathmatch very soon, so stay tuned and don't forget to check out our website, which is qrank.gg, spelled Qrank.gg.